The naturalist John Muir once said, "The mountains are calling, and I must go." Muir was one of the founders of the National Park Service and the Sierra Club. He dedicated his entire life to conserving and preserving our natural resources here in the United States. Behind me is a mural that is in my office here at the church, and by the time you see this devotion, I will be in the mountains at Glacier National Park, one of my favorite places on planet Earth. These places remind us of the power of God. Every time I come into my office, I get to go on a little mini vacation. At our home, one of the things that we talk about is Evan, my son, will sometimes head off to his room and say, "I'm going on vacation." Because in his room are posters of pictures we have taken in many of the national parks we have visited. And he likes to go to vacation to remember those scenes and those ideas. And so today I want to reflect with you on one of the Psalms that talks about the mountains, that talks about nature, that talks about where we can connect with God. This is Psalm 121. It says, to begin with, "I lift my eyes to the mountains. Where does my help come from?" The psalmist here is not saying that his help is from nature or from some formed structure here in the world. But he's telling us that God is seen in nature, in the beauty of mountaintops and the beauty of the created world, that God is there. He realizes that his help comes from God. I know that I am close to God when in the mountains, when finding God's grace through the power of his created order. When we went to Glacier National Park a number of years ago, on another trip, we were getting ready to leave, and standing on one of the cliff faces overlooking a lake that had an image of a mountain reflected in it, we were getting ready to leave the park and just taking one final view of this beautiful place. And a man came up to me who didn't know me from Adam, had no idea who I was, didn't know I was a pastor, stood next to me for a minute looking at this scene, and he said, "Anyone who doesn't believe in God is an idiot." I tend to agree. Now, I don't say this disparagingly to anyone, and I don't call anyone these kinds of names, but the concept is true, is that when we look at the world and refuse to see the beauty in the hand of God, I think we've missed a really good moment. John Muir also said, "In every walk with nature, one receives more than he seeks." I think this to be true as well, is that when we go out into the world, the natural world, we find God's handiwork, we find God's power, God's mystery, and God's grace. Psalm 121 continues, "My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. He will not let your foot slip. He who watches over you will neither slumber nor sleep. Indeed, who watches over Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps." It says here that even though we walk and sometimes life gets rough, we slip and we fall, we stumble. Often when we're taking hikes here in our national parks, I'll have at least one time where my foot will become uneasy. I'll begin to slide and sometimes twist my ankle. It's part of the process. It's part of the adventure, and I certainly don't like to get hurt. But I reflect back on this particular psalm. He will not let your foot slip. Well, my foot has slipped many times, not just walking on trails, but certainly walking in life. And so is the psalmist wrong, or is there a different way of looking and thinking about this? I think what I view in this is not that God is here putting a bubble around us, not wanting us to ever be shaken or moved, but that not having our foot slip is a reminder that God is always with us, even when we stumble and fall. And we can get back on solid footing and continue our journey through the power of God. Psalm 121 continues, "The Lord watches over you. The Lord is your shade at your right hand. The sun will not harm you by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord will keep you from all harm. He will watch over you all your life. The Lord will watch over your coming and your going, from now and forevermore." My friends, God is watching. God is with us. And I find God truthfully in the power of nature, in the mountains. The mountains are calling. I must go, but I will return. And when I return, I'll have more stories about what God is doing in my life and life of my family, and in our church and in our world. I'll conclude by telling you one final quote by Mr. Muir. Everybody needs beauty as well as bread, places to play in and pray in, where nature may heal and give strength to the body and soul. It's my hope today that you will get out. You will see the beauty of the world. You'll find a place to play and to pray, and to be nurtured and nourished by the goodness of God. God bless you. Have a great day.